Hi, folks. Hopefully you killed the bell ringer. Remember that SQ3R is scan, question, read, recite, review. Remember that the first part of it's so important and it's things that we oftentimes skip, and that is scan the reading. And you scan it so you could have a purpose. You're basically, like I said in the introduction, you're creating like file cabinets or shelves that you could put new information in. So we're going to model, we'll do this scan and questioning the purpose of reading. And the better and closer your purpose is, the more sticky your brain will get. So let's scan this. First off, if you see an overview of something in the top, you want to read that in full grammatical sequence right here. So it says America's most brutal war would reach its conclusion in April 1865. The Confederate Army hoped to Confederate Army's hope of outlasting the North's resolve to preserve the Union was fading by the beginning of 1865. In this reading, we will see how the Union finally managed its goals of taking the Confederate capital and accepting the surrender of its army in Appomattox, Virginia in April 1865. Looks like I got to do a little proofreading there. So we're taking a look at this. We've already known that the Confederacy only had to outlast the Union, and we're looking at its brutal conclusion. So we have some questions here too. What were the Union goals in 1864? And how was the Union's attempt to accomplish these goals becoming increasingly costly in 1864? And what was the purpose of General Sherman's march through Georgia? So we'll scan down through it. You can see there's a list of strategies there. You can see the Anaconda Plan. We see that in boldface. And we've looked at that already. And there's Richmond. We've talked about that as we move down through here. And then there's a picture there of the battle of the march through Georgia, and we've talked a little bit about that. We read about that yesterday too, so you want to connect to what you already looked at. We looked at General Sherman and what happened in Atlanta yesterday and its impact in the election of 1864. You can see right there the March to the Sea. And now we have another reading called The Road to Appomattox. So we have some questions here. How did the Confederate war effort begin to collapse in early 1865? So you put it together. We know that the Union was attempting to win. The Confederacy was really beginning to collapse in 1865. What situation brought Lee and Grant to Appomattox? So Appomattox must be a place. They must have met there. And what was the historical significance of the meeting of Lee and Grant in Appomattox? And we see a picture of Lee and Grant meeting there in Appomattox as we scan through here. And you can see this reading is pretty short. You know, these readings are not going to take you a long time. But remember, as we read with a purpose, and let's come up with a purpose here. I guess a good idea would be, the purpose would be to find out, how did the Civil War grind to an end by 1865 in Appomattox? How did the Northern plans to end the war reach their conclusion in Appomattox in April 1865? So this gives you a framework. So we're looking at the Union strategy to finish off the Confederacy and how it worked, and how the Union and the Confederacy met in Appomattox to end the war. So as you're reading this coming up here in a couple minutes, I want you to look at when you look at every paragraph, stop back and say, what does this teach me? What am I learning about this in terms of how did it reflect the plans of the Union to end the war, and how did the war eventually end in Appomattox? So you want to stop every paragraph or two and recite some things that you learned as you read, because again, reading isn't passive. You don't want to just look at words. Our goal here is you want to take a quiz on this, and you want to really do well. So, and again, the quiz is a short-term issue. As I said in the introduction, understanding the Civil War is really key to understanding what America is. Anybody who wants to know America has to look at its history, and the Civil War is really a watershed in that. So that's it. So please, after we've scanned it, it only takes a couple minutes. Now read it with a purpose so that you could really do well on this quiz.